So the astrology of the week of 25 January 2021 to 31 January 2021 includes a very interesting full moon in Leo, which shows us the benefits of our stubbornness, how digging in can produce results. And it also has Mercury stationing retrograde, which will take us through a kind of blocked, slowed down stretch of time that will really conclude right before we enter the spring season in March. All right, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to be here. Welcome to this week of astrology. A couple things before I dig in. The Stormy Grace Kickstarter is still going, and this is an interesting opportunity because her channel will produce content to educate anybody who wants it. Some of the best astrologers out there are on the teaching roster. I'm fortunate enough to be included in that group. So if you can, $1 or $2 or $3, I mean, a small amount helps, anything helps. Try to get her funded for that project. It will benefit the whole astrological community, the whole community of students, and really the whole world. These will be free videos available online. And so yeah, thank you for doing that. And then the other little bit of housekeeping, I'm starting with this video to incorporate my syzygy report into the weekly astrology. And I'm doing it because it's really going to open up some time for me and some work space for me. And it's just all around better for me, for my health, for my productivity, and for all the projects I'm working on. So let's just start out here this week. Here on Monday, I want to start out with this Gemini moon the week begins with gives way to a Cancer moon about 7 in the evening here in Central Europe. This lunar transit is my candidate of transit of the week. And you can find some nice lunar activations in your local area. The moon is domiciled in Cancer. The moon is home there. And so the moon is able to function fully. It can do what it likes to do. What I'm focused on with this moon is the notion of insight, foresight, intuition. You can think about how when we're attuned to what we need physically, emotionally, there is an opening that comes with how our instincts can then operate. How is my body doing? How am I feeling? Am I hydrated? This kind of question of where am I at? What am I doing? As much as possible, if we can incorporate it, it opens up an ability for us to then listen when we have an instinctual move. You know, we all have a little inner voice. Don't do that. You know, when we're about to make a decision and that inner voice says no, 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 no. This is the kind of lunar instinctual feature that comes with a moon that is doing quite well in the sky. And it's just a general theme here to develop our intuition can be very, very useful in life. And this Monday evening about 7 p.m. in Central Europe, Tuesday and then into Wednesday might be a time when that opportunity is a little bit more pronounced. So Thursday morning in Central Europe about 4 a.m. the moon will leave Cancer. So we have a nice 2 full days here, Tuesday and Wednesday, with this unencumbered moon or undamaged moon by malefic planets or by the lunar nodes. You know, the other thing is that Venus will be on that same axis, and Venus can, I think, provide a flavor here for how our intuition and our instinct may operate. You may want to consider the beautification side, the creative or artistic side. You know, creativity is one of vision in a way. Some of the best artists have their own unique vision, and they're honoring themselves. They're honoring their own sort of gut feeling about what wants to come out on a canvas, for example, or in a melody or with a song. And so this is also a lunar feature when you combine it with Venus as this kind of instinctual creative mode that can be so useful to tap into. I always recommend even people that don't think they're creative, you have creativity. I mean, just try it. Sit down on a paper and just make it a rule. You'll write for 1 minute. Right? And don't stop and just see what comes out. You're creating there instinctually. Do 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and you might see what part of you needs to come out when you give it an opportunity to be released. But this is that Venusian style instinct. The moon is the body, remember? It's the physical body. Venus is what we put on the body. It's the clothing. It is the hairstyle. It is the smells. So these types of Venusian upgrades, you might want to just do something. Maybe you felt like a certain style would fit you. Maybe it's time to try that on this Tuesday and Wednesday. You might find that, wow, this is great, this fits. But the key here is listening to yourself. Listen to what you need and what your inner intuition and inner wisdom is trying to communicate to you. The aesthetics or the aesthetic that we bring to our home can really change everything about it. I've got this, I'm in a rented apartment, but this orange wall that I've got, there's yellow walls here as well, really adds something to the energy here. It's not drab, you know, it's not depressing. It's bright. This is the color of the sun. So you might think about how colors in your space are giving you support, you know, that they're supporting the goals you have. Maybe you want darkness. Maybe that's what you need for the kind of work you do. But thinking about the color is just the key concept. Tuesday, Wednesday, a little bit on Monday evening, a little bit on Thursday morning. This Cancer moon is quite lovely. So Thursday at 8 p.m. here on the 28th, we then get this Leo full moon. This climax of the lunar energy, this climax of the lunation cycle. But we can think about like Dane Rudhyar, the 20th century astrologer, French-American astrologer. He's got the idea of a lunation cycle, and that's the cycle from the new moon where the moon is seated with the sun's light to its climax at the full moon, and then back to the seeding. And that's what we get this week here on Thursday about 8 p.m. in Central Europe, this climax of this lunation cycle, the first full lunation cycle that takes place in 2021. So we're in the middle of that first full lunation cycle of 2021, and this is the climax point. This is the stubborn full moon. This is the full moon where 6 of the 7 traditional planets are in fixed signs being signs of staying in an energy, not wanting to budge. The 7th planet, Venus, is in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, in the fixed sign of Aquarius. And so there's a stubbornness with this full moon. It's very interesting because there's a T-square applying with this full moon, which means that the sun and moon are opposing each other, but with the sun is Jupiter, very close, very tight, same degree, that 10th degree of Aquarius. Mars in the 11th degree of Taurus, and everything's applying here. These T-squares are very dynamic. They're charged activations. They can be tense, a ratcheting up of tension into this climax. And full moons themselves are known to be a kind of climax like I was just speaking about, where you have a lot of energy. But then this T-square with Mars, the planet of action, the planet of violence, the planet of movement, that is this in a dynamic square relationship to both the sun and the moon in the fixed sign Taurus. Then with Jupiter, like I said, right there also in the T-square. So this Jupiter in the heart of the sun really gives us an expanded sense of energy and a sense of wisdom and truth, great swaths of movement and action. Jupiter's the largest planet. It's full of gas and air. There's energy around the actions that we're digging in on. So maybe there's something that you're just sticking with, that you're not budging on. It's like, no, I've decided this is what reality is going to give me, or this is how I'm going to present myself to the world, or this is what I want out of life, and we're just staying the course. It's a beautiful way to do life, and you know, sometimes the people that stay committed for years or decades really can reap benefits. People that quit. They don't have the fruits or the flowers of an operation if you stop doing it. So I love the fixed energy. You know, on the other hand, you know when to hold them, you know when to fold them. Sometimes you would save yourself if you let go of something that you're determined on, and because the right thing for you would need to open up. I think this Leo new moon is about sticking with what we're digged in on and letting it start to pay dividends. That's the Jupiter and the sun coming together, helping our commitments pay dividends. And so obstinacy could be a key word here. You know, our obstinate nature might serve us. I do think there's also a risk here of coming up against and butting heads with other people. Mars can often be a planet of argumentation, discord, acrimony, and that we're dug in trying to reap those benefits of commitment, the things that flow from commitment. We might come up against those that are telling us we can't, or that it's not a good idea, or that it's foolhardy. So you'll have to be the judge of your own reality, but this definitely has support for digging in, staying there, staying with it, and letting those benefits come. You know, this could have to do with knowledge, because everything's in Aquarius. There's that pile up there now, 4 planets there in Aquarius, the sun and then the 3 triplicity rulers. Aquarius is it's an energy of thinking and of knowledge and of sharing ideas. So maybe what you're confronted with is staying with your reality frame, staying with how you view the world as a beacon that's guiding you in this first period in 2021. And then there's other people that are maybe resistant to your notions or that want to challenge your beliefs, and you'll have to stay with them and sort of navigate this world where two people's view collides, and we have to decide what we want to give up, how we want to compromise. Sometimes it's just agreeing to disagree. I love that energy, but it might come to a head where you then have to just say, okay, let's stop talking about this. I'm not going to change my view. The other thing I would say is that the full moon here in Leo is ruled by Venus, by Egyptian term, Venus being in Capricorn. I think there could be an opportunity if you approach it from a place of service, if you approach the steps you're taking from wanting to serve or help others, or you're wanting to connect relationships. Maybe you believe something that would be useful for the community or the environment around you. Centering that motive of service to others and building bridges might help if there is an acrimonious display here around worldview. And you might just want to check in, do the ideas you hold have as a motive support for others and the benefit of the group, or is it more of a selfish motive? Not that selfish motives are wrong, but I do think there's some higher support for when we decide to help others. The gods shine upon that motivation. When we want to do something for the benefit of other people or large groups of people, I think the gods really like that. Venus doesn't make an aspect to the full moon, and so there's this aversion that might make us feel maybe somewhat disconnected from our, femininity or from our beauty. But just know there's a Venusian flavor because Venus rules this new moon, so it might be worth trying to keep those connective, relational prettiness. Keep that in play here. Don't forget it, even though it might not be as easy to access, and we might have to intentionally just let it go as a priority. Maybe this is just you don't do your hair, you just throw it up and you get out in the world during this full moon because of those other operations take primacy, those other disputes of ideas. It's less about the body, it's less about looking good. So the other thing is the domicile ruler of the full moon, right? It's the sun. So this is that one time when a full moon gets ruled by the sun, that 1 or 2 times every year. And the sun is always in Aquarius during a full moon in Leo. And this Leo moon and its fullness and its power might want to have things like, vitality, a sense of purpose that's now really full of strength, willpower. These are the kind of things a Leo moon can bring. But when it's a full moon, we flow back into this Aquarius sun. If you think about a Leo moon while the sun is in Aries, right, a growing, waxing moon with an exalted sun, that really is a time, I think, where we can feel our sense of vitality and willpower aligning with our physical body as we move kind of decisively into the world. This is maybe wanting that, feeling the need for that, but then having to give over to a very, very strong Saturn and Aquarian moment here. Remember, Aquarius, they say, is a humanitarian energy, it's a collective energy, it's a Saturn energy. These are fixed structures of the group that might be impinging on this sort of personal vitality. So just go with it. Sometimes we need to play second fiddle, take a back seat, let go into other features of life, the community and the group. The next syzygy after this is a new moon. It's going to be on 10th and 11th February. 6 of the 7 traditional planets in Aquarius, piling up big time. We're building to that now. This is the last syzygy before that, and the moon will now be waning into that buildup. And so again, I think symbolically, we have a Leo moon, maybe about our personal vitality that's now waning and lessening. And then we have this epic pileup, which I do think is a climax to 2021. I think we'll see a lot of things, policy changes, the shifts as the new American government comes into power, the ramifications of that globally, the decisions that are made by that government. That's what I think we're having to give over to, the sense of uncertainty, the sense of these larger structures of society and the rules that they want to implement being determinative. Our individual choices have to maybe wait, be delayed, and give way. And especially with the Mercury retrograde that's coming, I think we'll have delays and blocks. There's this fixed star very close here to the Leo full moon. There's 2 stars here, and they're called the Acellus. Acelli, plural, the Acelli, or there's 2 of them. Acellus Australis is the one that the full moon is very close to, and the other one is Acellus Boreali. And there are these 2 stars right in the back of the crab, of the constellation Cancer, right in the back. This square of stars right on the back of the crab, known as a womb, a kind of universal womb. People have likened it to that being the manger where the birth of Christ happened, right here on the back of the crab that is Cancer. And so we're dealing with a kind of birthing energy here. These 2 stars are said to be the donkeys that are in these manger scenes. And so we have this donkey energy that's watching something here with this full moon in Leo. If you think about donkeys, they are known for being stubborn. And that's why I think the great theme here is the stubbornness. Donkeys have that reputation. They really like what they like and they don't want to budge. That's why you like a donkey. That's why you bring them on. They can very much be relied upon to get a job done. This theme is being repeated of what are you digging your heels in on? What do you want to stay with? How can you be good stubborn, useful stubborn, productive stubborn, and not be a detriment to those around you and the projects that you're involved in? This stubborn Mars and Taurus, the action that's consistent, that's steadfast, that's one foot in front of the other, slow and steady, that's the energy that is also confirmed with the Marseille conjunction here. And I also like to think about the sun as the light of life, that when we shine that light on things, they grow. Plants grow. There's a healing light energy that consciousness can bring to a situation. That can maybe be the sun in a way here, especially if we're looking at Christ symbolism and a manger and the birth of a spiritual entity right here on the back of the crab. We might think about just how we can use that solar attention, use it to heal right now, especially with the sun in Aquarius, with the sun exiled there and maybe having to give over to these other societal structures. Just maybe look around you. How can you add value? How can you give someone your time through your attention? Remember, attention is money, time is money. Maybe someone needs to talk. Maybe someone's invited you to a party that you can attend, and just show up and be present and share and respond and laugh. People need that. People need your presence. Each person's presence is extremely powerful. When we add it to a group, it raises that vibration. They've got those prayer studies, if you've seen, where groups of people come together to pray, and then it lowers the crime. I think it's the famous one. It was a Washington, D.C. group in the 90s. Just think about that, adding your light, your sun to this collective so that we can move forward as a group and as a community and birth something that is going to keep the chain of the human experience alive. Friday the 29th of January, about 3 in the morning here in Central Europe, Jupiter enters the cauldron of the sun. Jupiter meets and joins the sun. This is the Jupiter kazimi, or Jupiter in the heart of the sun. Just what I was saying earlier about the sun, how powerful it is when we place our attention on things. When that sun gets put on one planet, when they join, it can purify a planet. And so the significations of that planet are allowed to come forth even stronger and more powerfully than they would have otherwise. These planets, you might think about them as being fired up, literally fired up, and they're caught up in that fire of the moment. And this is what happens to Jupiter here. Both the sun and Jupiter are of the day sect. Both like the heat. They like the daytime energy, and they're joining now. And this is happening in Venus's Egyptian term. I think with Jupiter sometimes signifying extravagance, and Venus here can also lend itself to an extravagant nature. This might be something that you get to experience in a positive way. Maybe you do delight in the benefit of some luxuries that you have around you or that are within your reach. Whatever it is, this might be the time to break it out and enjoy something a little bit more luxurious than you've been allowing yourself up to this time. And the other thing is that the signification of Jupiter being wisdom and truth and higher wisdom, I think we can have a chance here to do more analysis of the government structures, of the structures of the society. What is the power structure of the community you're living in, the society that you're a part of? I think there might be time to download awareness about an insight about that and how you want to choose to interface with it or interface with it at all. What are opportunities for you within those confines? That's the Aquarius energy, right? Mercury being here co-present, Saturn being here co-present with this Jupiter Sun kazimi. It really brings all the Aquarian features here within the purview of Jupiter's search for higher wisdom and truth. And you may write about it, you may share about it, you may want to talk to people about it. Hey, I realized this is why my life went a certain way, because the structure of the society I was born into forced these choices or forced me into this situation, and I made then a choice the best I could do at the time. But there were structural underpinnings for why we make the choices we make. And seeing that and having that insight, the truth of that can sometimes give you a little bit of a relief. That's a side of Aquarius that is a freeing side. Some people talk about it being an individualistic energy. I think this is where that comes in, that we can see clearly the structure of the collective and therefore know the place of the individual within that. So then we get to Saturday, and this is going to be the last aspect of the week. This is Saturday here in Central Europe. Mercury retrograde comes here, and this is a defining feature of the late winter 2021. Mercury stations retrograde, 27th degree of Aquarius. Mercury will move backwards and hit every traditional planet, except for Mars, which it will square Mars 2 more times. Mercury really activating the whole of the sky through this Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, in the pileup, which is the overweight, heavy, saturated energy of early February and of this late winter period. What can we do with a Mercury retrograde energy? We can look back, we can review. If there's blocks, we can use whatever's blocked from going forward. We can use the time created by those blocks to examine our plan, to tweak procedures, to prevent blocks from coming in the future, to really just rest. Sometimes with Mercury retrograde, it's a good time to just let the magic and kind of the dance and play of reality do its thing without having to interject or feel responsible. I like them as downtime. Absolutely. Now, the thing is, this Mercury station retrograde, and remember, when a planet stations, it gets powerful. So there might be things coming related to Mercury just come up. Mercury's in the term of Saturn. Saturn during this period is in the term of Mercury, so they're actually exchanging terms. Old books, old resources. I've been looking on the web. There's this website, Wikimedia Commons, and even just Google Images or Google searches where you can find old books, old texts that have been hidden. There's so many gems in those old books that are available online, stuff scanned in. And so just look, plans take time. Like I was saying earlier, we don't know what the summer is going to be like concretely. We have hope for it with Jupiter and Pisces, but we just don't know. Will you be able to travel this summer? I don't know. Will you be able to, who can you visit? We just don't know. This kind of planning side of a Mercury retrograde is exactly what you would expect of not really being able to make a plan. Delays, blocks, etc., paperwork errors. So I would just hold off on plans right now. Wait for Mercury to clear its shadow. That will happen in mid-March. And then you get the sun into Aries on the 20th of March. That's really when this energy starts opening up. And we start in the Northern Hemisphere coming into summer, clearing up the respiratory illnesses. I think we're poised here to be able to plan much, much better after this late winter period. And the Mercury retrograde makes it even more emphasized that we don't want to plan, we want to wait, delay, and just be with energy rather than trying to move into business deals or book publications or anything like that. You know, and then the other thing with the Mercury retrograde, it means that we're not going to understand things until later. So this pile up in Aquarius, we might not even know what's gone on there or understand the full ramifications of the events that take place until much later. That's what the Mercury being retrograde there can mean. So that's how we finish the week. It'll be a lot different by the time we get to next Sunday. We'll be in a Mercury retrograde, and then the planets, the moon will be waning into this beautiful dark climax to this first part of the year. Let's get a tarot reading. So yeah, you know, that's the astrology, and it's all about, it was like Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius on the winter solstice, and then it's been building to this February new moon. These are the two kind of tent poles that we've been in between, and this is this is kind of that last mini tent pole, the syzygy, right, the drumbeat of reality, the last one before that. And yeah, you know, and I think very much it's about the political changes, because America's, you know, it's not every country is America, but what America does because of the petrodollar, because of its power with, empire, both soft and hard power that it projects, it really does impact the rest of the world. People do feel the change very significantly. Okay, the first card is, well, this one just dropped out. So this is the card. It's the Seven of Diamonds. All right, Seven of Diamonds energy. You know, this is actually in Aquarius. It's the last decan of Aquarius. Aquarius where Mercury will be stationing retrograde. This is the last decan of Aquarius, ruled by the moon, where Mercury will be stationing retrograde. So I think it's pretty clear that maybe that's what we need to focus on this week, is getting ready for this Mercury retrograde. Think about in your own life, how are you preparing for it? Maybe backing up files. Those of you who are in activations where Mercury is important this year, whether by various astrological techniques can tell you what planets are more important, things like annual perfections, maybe you're in a Mercury period, and so this is maybe more important for you. You might want to not try to buy things. Don't try to do business deals. Back up your software. Don't be taking trips during this time. You know, when I see that the tarot is also telling us, you know, the cartomancy pulls are also pointing to that, that is significant. So be sure that you're taking care of that Mercury retrograde hygiene. And maybe this is pointing to some kind of collective event as well. And who knows what that could be. Often with the collective, websites go down. Maybe there's blockages on the stock markets or stock exchange or electricity issues. These kinds of things you see, I mean, way more often than you'd suspect with Mercury retrograde. Oh no, Facebook went down for 4 or 5 hours. And with the moon being the ruler of this decan, I think it does let us know that maybe the Cancer moon that we were talking about earlier can be a sweet spot to lean into. All right, second card. Second card. And with the second card, the Sun. We have got the Sun. This is a great card to get anytime I see it. We've got the Sun. And I spent so much in this video describing what I feel like is the power of solar consciousness and how we can use solar consciousness to both heal, to bring joy and peace to other people, to raise up a group of people. I think that, you see here, these are two children just basking and dancing under the rays of that sun. I mean, we need sun to grow. We need the light of consciousness to grow. Our parents, hopefully when we were children, the sun can be the father in the ancient texts, gave us their attention. That's what parenting is, that you take a child and you give that loving attention to it. When it asks questions, you reply, and you rear something by giving it the loving attention, just like the sun rears the plants by giving it the healing rays. So I think what I would just say here is use your solar energy, even though the sun is exiled, even though we have uncertainty in the world, even though we don't know what the collective rules are going to be. There's a lot of uncertainty there. Just know that everywhere you go, you have the light of life in your consciousness that can feed yourself and feed those around you. It's the great thing with like MLK, just had his birthday. He was in prison there in Alabama. He wrote that beautiful letter, right? The beautiful letters. I think it was the Birmingham. There were like these meditations on, the collective and how humanity can heal, and how there was some on nonviolence, ahimsa. And I know that's not the whole of his teaching, but that's just an example that when we're imprisoned with Saturn, when this Aquarian energy that's so palpable right now comes in and makes life difficult, there's always the choice to bring the solar power, the solar life, the solar healing force into our immediate environment or into ideas that then can be mined by people in your life in the coming weeks or later generations even, if you want to think big. So, don't sleep on the sun right now. Don't sleep on the sun. Feed it. Feed it. So that's the tarot reading. That's the weekly astrology. Thanks for being here. And have a lovely week ahead. As always, you can book astrology and tarot readings with me, sjanderson144.com. Just click here to schedule a reading right at the top of my website, and that will take you to the scheduler. I look forward to reading for you. I very much enjoy that. And have a lovely, lovely week ahead. Enjoy this climactic syzygy, this last full moon before that new moon in Aquarius. And yeah, enjoy that Cancer moon as well this week, that Tuesday and Wednesday Cancer moon energy to really love yourself, nurture yourself, and be a little bit creative with it.